I'm not the kind of guy who likes to make a scene. I've always been the one in the family who tries to keep the peace, to smooth things over when someone says something out of line or when tempers flare during the holidays. I thought if I just stayed quiet long enough, worked hard enough, and stayed out of trouble, maybe one day I'd be respected. Maybe my family would finally see me not as the odd one out, but as someone who mattered. My name's Kevin. I'm 31, and for most of my life, I've been labeled the quiet one, the sensitive one, or my personal favorite, the one who never really figured it out. My older sister, Vanessa, is the opposite of me in every way. She's loud, commanding, opinionated, and, as far as our parents are concerned, flawless. Growing up, I couldn't so much as leave a dish in the sink without getting a lecture, but Vanessa could crash my dad's car and still get taken out to dinner afterward. She was always the star of the family, the overachieving, picture-perfect daughter who could do no wrong, even when she clearly did. Meanwhile, I went through life feeling like a background character in my own house. It didn't help that I took a less conventional path. After high school, I didn't go to college. I didn't rack up a bunch of degrees or land some prestigious internship in the city like my cousins. I started working odd jobs, bouncing from freelance gigs to tech support to a few entrepreneurial side hustles that nobody really understood or took seriously. I built websites, ran online marketing campaigns, eventually moved into consulting. Nothing that looked impressive on paper to people like my dad or Vanessa, who worked in real industries with titles and lanyards and office holiday parties. Even when I started making decent money, like way more than I ever thought I could, I kept it to myself. Part of it was insecurity, sure, but mostly it was exhaustion. Every time I tried to explain what I did, I'd get the same condescending smile from Vanessa or the glazed-over stare from my parents, followed by some passive-aggressive remark like, "Well, I guess that internet stuff is working out for you." As if I were selling knockoff handbags out of a van. I moved out at 22 and stopped coming around much after that. It wasn't like I was missed. My mom would guilt-trip me about not visiting enough, but she never really asked how I was doing. My dad only talked to me when he needed something tech-related fixed. And Vanessa? Well, Vanessa was too busy planning her picture-perfect life to pay me any mind unless it was to mock me for being off the grid. When she got engaged last year, she sent me a group text with a save the date attached and a note that said, "Hope you can come, Kev." Not exactly warm, but I said congratulations and told her I'd be there. I meant it too. No matter how distant I'd become from all of them, I wasn't going to miss my sister's wedding. It felt like a peace offering, even if it was a one-sided one. Then came the phone call. It was early spring, and Vanessa rang me up out of the blue. Her voice was sugary sweet, the kind of tone she used when she wanted something. I braced myself. "Hey, Kev. So listen, I know you're really good with that online business stuff, and you've got that flexible income or whatever, and I was wondering if maybe, just maybe, you could help out with something for the wedding." I asked her what she meant, already hearing the trapdoor creaking open. "Well, it's just, the venue we really want is a little over budget, and Dad said he can't help because of the loan for the lake house, and Jason's parents are already covering the honeymoon, so we're kind of stuck." There it was. "I was thinking," she continued, "since you don't have like kids or a mortgage or anything, maybe you could help us book it? It's super reasonable, only 40 grand for the whole package, venue, catering, and open bar. It's honestly a steal, and it would mean so much to me." I nearly dropped the phone. $40,000? Was she serious? "I don't know, Vanessa," I said cautiously. "That's a lot of money." "Oh, come on," she whined. "You're always posting those pictures from Bali and Croatia and wherever. I know you've got it. It's just one thing. One big, amazing, meaningful thing you could do for your only sister." And like an idiot, I caved. Not right away. I said I'd think about it, asked to see the invoice, tried to justify it to myself. But eventually, after a few more guilt-trippy calls and a voicemail from my mom that ended with, "Don't be selfish, Kevin," I wired the money. I told them they didn't need to announce it or make a big deal. I just wanted them to have the wedding they dreamed of. Part of me genuinely hoped it would be a step toward healing things, some unspoken truce where I'd finally be seen as part of the family again. What I didn't expect was to be erased completely. The wedding was last month. It was beautiful. I'll give them that. The venue was this stunning renovated barn with vaulted ceilings, crystal chandeliers, and a wraparound deck that overlooked a wildflower field. The catering was top-notch, the bar stayed flowing, and everything was meticulously Instagram perfect. But from the moment I arrived, it was clear I was nothing more than an afterthought. I wasn't listed in the program, wasn't seated with the family, wasn't even acknowledged during the speeches. When Vanessa toasted the people who made this night possible, she mentioned Jason's parents, her bridesmaids, even the freaking florist, but not me. Still, I stayed quiet. I told myself maybe she forgot, maybe it was an oversight, maybe she was too overwhelmed to think of everything. I took my seat at the table with the distant cousins and plus ones, sipped my wine, and tried to enjoy the night. Then came the laughter. It started as whispers, snide little comments at the table behind me. I heard my name, followed by someone snickering. Kevin? Please, the guy lives in his pajamas and probably hasn't had a real job in a decade. More laughter. Louder this time. Another voice chimed in. I heard he still lives in that tiny apartment above a dry cleaner. Betty brought a coupon to the gift registry. My stomach turned. I glanced back and saw a cluster of my sister's friends, people I barely knew, laughing and clinking glasses, clearly drunk, but lucid enough to enjoy tearing me apart. I tried to block it out, but it spread. At the bar, I overheard one of my uncles muttering, "It's a miracle he even showed up. Probably didn't want to miss out on the free food." Another cousin chuckled. "Does he even do anything? Or is he still pretending to be some kind of YouTuber?" I didn't say a word. I just kept sipping my drink, smiling politely, swallowing the burn that was rising in my throat. I could feel the familiar heat behind my eyes, that pressure that builds when you're embarrassed and furious, but trying desperately not to show it. I kept telling myself it didn't matter, that they didn't know the truth, that I was better than this. But then, right before the cake cutting, something happened that changed everything. The worst part wasn't the whispers. It wasn't the laughter or the snide remarks, or even the complete erasure of my contribution to that night. The worst part was how normal it all felt. Like this was just par for the course, Kevin being the butt of the joke, Kevin being left out, Kevin being the family embarrassment, the invisible one, the one you conveniently forget exists unless you need something tech-related or a favor no one else wants to do. After those comments at the table, I tried to pull myself together. I went outside for air, walked around the venue's gravel parking lot pretending to take a call. In truth, I just needed to stop clenching my jaw before I gave myself a headache. I remember looking up at the sky, trying to breathe slowly, counting backwards from 10 like I'd been taught in therapy years ago. It wasn't working. A part of me wanted to leave right then. Just get in my car, drive away, block all of them, and never speak to my family again. But there was another part. Maybe the same stubborn voice that told me to wire them the money in the first place, that said no. You paid for this. You earned your place here. If they're going to treat you like you don't exist, then at least make sure you witness every second of it. Don't give them the satisfaction of walking away. Let them see you. So I went back inside. The reception was in full swing by then. Vanessa and Jason were on the dance floor with a crowd around them, laughing as the DJ played some old pop hit. My parents were seated near the head table, my mom with her camera phone out, beaming like she was watching royalty. I hovered by the edge of the room, unseen again, just watching it all unfold like I was a guest at someone else's party. And in a way, I guess I was. Eventually, I found my way back to my table. The same distant cousins were there, tipsy and deep into a conversation about real estate investments. I sat quietly, not contributing. I didn't have the energy. Then my dad came over. "Hey, Kevin," he said, patting my shoulder without really looking at me. "Having fun?" I nodded. "Yeah, it's a nice venue." He snorted. "Too nice, honestly. Between you and me, I don't know how Vanessa swung this. Place must have cost a fortune. But, well, you know her. Always gets what she wants." He laughed like it was a charming personality trait, and not the blueprint of our family dynamic. "She didn't mention who paid for it?" I asked carefully. He blinked at me. "Huh." I tilted my head. "The venue. The catering. All of it." He chuckled, already turning away. "Probably Jason's folks. They've got money. Anyway, enjoy yourself, son." And just like that, he was gone. That moment was when the anger started replacing the sadness. I didn't need to be praised, but to be ignored, completely, deliberately, thoroughly. It felt surgical. It felt coordinated. I could almost believe that Vanessa had intentionally scrubbed me from the narrative. And if she hadn't done it intentionally, then she had done it casually, without a thought. And somehow, that was worse. I stayed seated through the next few dances. I watched them take group photos, family group photos, without even glancing in my direction. I watched my mom cry happy tears as Vanessa danced with my dad, and I watched them both beam with pride like they were sending off their daughter into the perfect fairy tale. Then came the speeches. First up was Jason's best man, who told a few predictable jokes and toasted their friendship. Then came Vanessa's maid of honor, her college roommate, Jenna, who spent 5 minutes gushing about how Vanessa was the most selfless person she'd ever met. I nearly choked on my drink. Selfless? Vanessa? And let's not forget, Jenna added, holding up her champagne glass with the flourish of someone who had practiced this moment in front of a mirror. Vanessa planned this entire wedding herself. Every detail, every payment, every ounce of energy. She did it all. The crowd erupted in applause. My fork stopped midair. That was when I knew it wasn't ignorance. It wasn't an oversight. It was a lie, a coordinated, deliberate rewriting of reality. I wanted to scream. I wanted to stand up and shout. No, she didn't. I did. I paid for this. But I didn't. Because I knew how it would look. I'd be the jealous brother causing a scene. The bitter loser who couldn't stand not being in the spotlight. The quiet one who finally snapped and embarrassed everyone. And that narrative, that's the one they wanted me to play into. So I stayed silent. I smiled. I toasted. I played the role of the invisible donor, the generous ghost. But something inside me had changed. The next turning point came later that night, after I had started counting the hours until I could leave. I was nursing my third drink, hovering near the hallway that led to the bathrooms, when I heard my sister's voice behind the corner. She was talking to Jenna and one of her other bridesmaids. I wouldn't have stopped if I hadn't heard my name. Honestly, I only invited him so he wouldn't sulk to Mom, Vanessa was saying. He's so pathetic. Have you seen what he wore? It's like he thinks this is prom. They laughed. Jenna added, what does he even do again? Vanessa scoffed. Something with Wi-Fi and a laptop. He probably runs a blog for unemployed millennials. I mean, I bet he brought, like, a toaster as a wedding gift. More laughter. I still can't believe he came alone, said another voice. Vanessa replied, of course he did. Who would date Kevin? The only ring he's getting is from his DoorDash notifications. And that was it. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just stood there, frozen, while they ripped me to shreds less than 20 feet away from the room I had paid for. I wanted to believe she didn't mean it, that maybe she was drunk, or trying to impress her friends, or lashing out because she felt insecure about something. But none of it mattered, because those words weren't new. That tone wasn't new. That casual cruelty, that sense of superiority, it was who she had always been. And I had just funded her wedding. I don't remember walking back into the reception hall, but I must have, because the next thing I knew, I was back at my table, staring blankly at the centerpiece like it was some kind of anchor. Something had broken inside me. I felt hollow, but focused, clear, sharp. It wasn't about the money anymore. It wasn't even about the wedding. It was about decades of being overlooked, disrespected, used. And that's when I started forming the plan. It didn't come to me all at once. There was no lightning bolt, just a quiet realization that I still had control of one very important detail, the payment method. I had paid the full amount to the venue, but I'd done it in a very specific way, via a charge authorization with the venue manager, who I'd spoken with directly several times throughout the planning. And during one of our early conversations, she'd casually offered me an option in case I ever needed it. We can always put a secondary card on file, she'd said, in case of incidentals or last-minute adjustments. Just let us know. At the time, I hadn't bothered. But now I was wondering if maybe it wasn't too late. I pulled out my phone, stepped outside again, and called the venue manager. She answered on the second ring, chipper as ever. Hi, this is Carly at Wildflower Ridge. How can I help? I kept my voice calm, friendly, professional. Hey Carly, it's Kevin Marsh. I was wondering, would I be able to add a different card on file for the remaining balance? I've decided I want the official receipt to go to the bride. Family tradition thing. She didn't question it. Of course, if you want to send over her card details, or better yet, have her text me the authorization, we can switch it over. Shouldn't take more than a few minutes. And just like that, the fuse was lit. I didn't move on it right away. I waited, watched, let the night unfold a little more. I wanted to be sure. I wanted to give myself every opportunity to walk away from this with my conscience clean. But that chance never came. Because what happened next sealed everything. I didn't sleep that night. After the wedding, I drove back to my apartment in complete silence. No music, no radio, just the hum of the highway and the distant echo of my sister's voice laughing about my so-called failure. I kept replaying it in my head. Those words, the fake smiles, the applause for people who hadn't lifted a finger to make that night happen. I thought I'd be angry, furious, even. But what I felt instead was this slow, sinking hollowness. Like a balloon quietly deflating. No pop, just silence. For years, I had told myself I was okay with being overlooked, that I didn't need validation or credit, that I was above it. But sitting in that car, hands clenched on the wheel, watching my own knuckles turn white, I realized I wasn't okay. I never had been. I had spent so much time downplaying my accomplishments, not because I was modest, but because I didn't think anyone in my life wanted me to succeed. Or if they did, they only wanted me to succeed in a way that made them feel comfortable, conventional, measured, familiar. But I had chosen a different path. I built something they couldn't see, couldn't understand, and so they dismissed it. Dismissed me. And what did I do in return? I paid them to keep doing it. That was the rock bottom I hit. Not just realizing how they saw me, but realizing how I had enabled it. How I'd wrapped myself in the idea that if I just gave more, they'd see me differently. That if I stayed quiet and helpful and useful, maybe one day I'd be part of the club. But the truth is, there was never going to be a seat for me at their table. They liked me better on the outside. When I got home, I didn't even take off my shoes. I just collapsed onto the couch, stared at the ceiling, and let the weight of it all settle. I must have stayed like that for hours, until the early morning light started creeping in through the blinds. That was when something shifted in me. It wasn't rage. It wasn't spite. It was clarity. I stood up, walked over to my desk, turned on my computer, and I started working. Not the frantic, overcompensating kind of work I used to do when I was trying to prove something, but a new kind of work. Strategic, intentional, quiet, focused. I pulled up my business dashboard. I hadn't looked at it in a couple weeks, not seriously. Most of my income came from long-running automation campaigns, evergreen sales funnels, and client retainers that didn't require much maintenance. But now, I wanted to go deeper, smarter, bigger. I reorganized everything, streamlined my CRM, cleaned up my client backlog, reached out to 3 companies I'd been meaning to pitch consulting packages to but had been putting off. I revamped my landing pages, rewrote my service packages, tightened my pricing structure, optimized my SEO, and then I started filming. I'd been toying with the idea of building a digital course for a while, something I could sell passively, maybe generate a little extra revenue. But I'd always hesitated. Who would listen to me? Well, that version of me, the version who questioned his own value, died at the wedding. Over the next 4 weeks, I filmed every day. I didn't tell anyone, didn't post about it. I just woke up, wrote scripts, recorded modules, edited videos, and uploaded them to a platform I had quietly signed up for 6 months prior. I called the course, The Invisible Freelancer, How to Build Quiet Success in a Loud World. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't for influencers or startup bros or people chasing Lamborghinis and private jets. It was for people like me, people who didn't fit the mold, who wanted to build something on their own terms without having to scream for attention. People who had been told, over and over, that what they were doing didn't count. Within 2 weeks of launch, I made more than I'd spent on the wedding. Within a month, it doubled. At the same time, I started showing up differently in my own life. Not louder, just more solid. I started saying no, declining family invites, turning down favors with a simple, unapologetic, "I'm not available." It was strange at first, liberating, but scary. My mom called 3 times in a week, leaving increasingly guilt-laced voicemails. I didn't return them. Vanessa texted me once, asking if I could help edit a short video montage of the wedding for her Instagram. I ignored it. They noticed the change. I know they did, but they didn't acknowledge it directly. They never do. Instead, they asked mutual family friends how I was doing. I know because one of those friends, a guy named Jeremy who'd always treated me like a real person, forwarded me the messages. "Vanessa, is Kevin okay? He's been weird lately." My mom, "He's not returning my calls. Maybe he's embarrassed about something." My dad, "He's probably just going through another one of his phases." That last one hit me harder than I expected. Another one of his phases. Like I was some failed experiment some fluke of genetics they were still trying to make sense of. But then, a week later, something else arrived, an invoice. A copy of the official wedding bill from the venue. I hadn't asked for it. Carly, the venue manager, had sent it over automatically now that the event was officially closed and archived. It listed every charge, every service, every date, and at the very bottom, in small, neat type, final balance pending, $40,000. Charge to be applied to backup card on file, ending in 8821. That number was familiar, very familiar, because a week before the wedding, Vanessa had texted me her card details for the bar tab, in case anyone orders something extra. She had said, just in case they need something small, I trust you. I told Carly to switch the card over later that same day. I never used it until now. Staring at that invoice, I didn't feel giddy or victorious. I felt calm, steady. This wasn't revenge. Not yet. This was a correction. But it still wasn't time. Something in me knew, let it sit. Let it breathe. Over the next week, I didn't touch the charge. I just lived. I launched another mini course, booked 2 more clients, and started renting a larger studio space outside the city. I began working with a business partner, a woman named Rachel I'd met through a consulting forum. Smart, direct, grounded. We clicked instantly, professionally and otherwise. One evening, as we were packing up after a shoot, she asked me if I had any family. I hesitated. I do, I said finally. But I'm not sure they see me. She didn't ask more. She just nodded and handed me a bottle of water. I think that was the first moment in a long time I felt understood. The following weekend, I got an email from Vanessa. Subject line, Hey Kev. Body. Hey stranger. I feel like I haven't heard from you in forever. Hope you're doing well. Anyway, super random, but I just got this weird alert about a big charge on my card from the wedding venue. Did you happen to use it by accident? Carly from the venue won't pick up, and I'm kind of freaking out lol. Let me know. Miss you. There was a time I would have panicked. Called her. Tried to explain. Offered to fix it. But this wasn't that time. I read the email once. Then again. And then I smiled, just slightly. Because what Vanessa didn't know was that this was only the beginning. I didn't respond to Vanessa's email right away. Actually, I didn't respond at all. I let it sit for 4 days. Each morning I'd open it, reread her fake concern, the sugar-slicked miss you at the bottom, and then close it again. She was playing the same game she'd played her whole life. Acting sweet when she wanted something. Acting innocent when the knife she'd twisted finally drew blood. But this time, I wasn't bleeding. She was. The charge had gone through. $40,000. Clean. Final. And just like that, for the first time in my life, I had leverage. But I didn't want to use it like a sledgehammer. No, that would have been too easy. Too short-sighted. I wanted her to feel it. Not just the money, but the weight of everything she'd done to me. Everything she had brushed off, denied, laughed about behind corners. This wasn't about money anymore. This was about truth. And there was no way to make someone see the truth better than making them watch it unfold in real time, step by step, with no escape. The first move was subtle. I called Carly, the venue manager, and told her to expect a call from my sister. She might try to dispute the charge, I said carefully. But I have the email thread and verbal confirmation we agreed on this change. I'd appreciate it if you didn't reverse anything until I give the green light. Carly was sympathetic. Totally understand. I remember everything. She even sent over her card info herself, right? She did. Then she's liable. We won't budge unless there's a legal demand. Thank you. That was all I needed. Then I made my second call, to someone I hadn't spoken to in years. His name was Ryan. Back in college, he'd dated Vanessa for about 8 months. He was quiet like me, a little awkward, but smart, brilliant, even. She dumped him in the most humiliating way possible. Told everyone he was boring and broke, and that dating him was her charity work of the year. He moved to Colorado after they broke up and built a tech startup from the ground up. I'd followed his progress quietly over the years. He still had the same number. Kevin, he said after the 3rd ring, voice surprised but warm. Man, it's been a while. It has. Sorry for the random call. No worries. What's up? I'm working on a project, I said slowly. Something involving people we both know. And I think you might want in. There was a pause. Then a quiet chuckle. If this is about Vanessa, say less. We ended up talking for almost 2 hours. I told him about the wedding, about the whispers, the insults, The 40 grand that got conveniently forgotten. He listened without interrupting, and when I finished, he said one thing. Let's burn the script. That became our motto. Ryan offered to help me quietly promote my digital course. He had connections, ad funnels, influencer deals I couldn't even dream of. Over the next 2 weeks, my platform exploded. Revenue tripled. My name started showing up on lists, top solo founders to watch, quiet millionaires of the year. And through it all, I kept my face off everything. No photos, no interviews, no family. I was invisible, but unavoidable. I also reached out to 2 more people, Michelle and Anthony. They were cousins on my mom's side, distant, barely part of the main family, but they'd always been kind to me. The kind of relatives who remembered your birthday and asked follow-up questions. Michelle was a lawyer. Anthony worked in finance. Neither one was particularly close to Vanessa, and when I told them what I was planning, their responses were immediate. Michelle, she deserves worse. Anthony, tell me where to stand. I didn't need them to fight. I needed them as eyes. Inside contacts. Whispers at the dinner tables. Meanwhile, Vanessa had switched tactics. Her second email was shorter. Subject, really need to talk. Body, Kevin, this isn't funny. I can't afford this charge. Jason is furious. Please just call me. We can figure something out. I thought you were helping. I didn't know you were going to do this. No more emojis. No more LOL. I still didn't answer. I wanted her to sweat. I wanted her to feel the pressure of a problem she couldn't charm or explain her way out of. I wanted her to sit across from Jason and try to explain why their honeymoon budget just evaporated. I wanted her to go to bed knowing she burned the bridge she thought would always be there. Still, I waited. Then, I planned the next move. It started with the anniversary dinner. Vanessa and Jason were planning a post-wedding celebration dinner with the immediate family to go over photos and thank everyone for their contributions. My name wasn't on the group text, but Michelle forwarded it to me. From Vanessa, can't wait to see everyone and show you all the final album. Huge shout out to Jason's parents for the bar tab and mom and dad for all your help. Love you guys. No mention of me. Again, that's when I decided I'd attend uninvited. But I wouldn't come as Kevin, the forgotten brother. I'd come as Kevin Marsh, the founder of a now viral 6-figure business platform that half the table would have just read about that week in a finance newsletter they pretended not to follow. The night before the dinner, I had flowers sent to my parents' house. Not from me, from the venue. The card read, "Thank you for hosting such a beautiful celebration. Final payment received. We hope to work with you again. Wildflower Ridge Events." Vanessa would see it. Jason would see it. My parents, too. Then, on the day of the dinner, I called the restaurant and prepaid for a private room under my name. They wouldn't know until they got there. When they arrived, the hostess would check the name and say, "Right this way, the private room under Kevin Marsh." It would land like a dropped fork in a silent room. But the crown jewel? A slideshow. I uploaded a drive folder to the TV hookup in the private room. It had a simple title, Wedding Contributions. Slide 1, a photo of the venue with the invoice total beneath it. Slide 2, an email screenshot from Vanessa sending me her card information with the subject line, "Use this if needed." Slide 3, the final payment confirmation with the card ending in 8821. Slide 4, a final note that read, "Thank you for your kind words at the reception. I heard every one of them. Kevin, I didn't even plan to stay for the dinner. I wasn't going to gloat. I just wanted the truth to land in their laps like a stone in a still pond. No yelling, no scenes, just the sharp, undeniable reality of what they'd done and what I had done in return." But then, the final twist came earlier than I expected. 3 days before the dinner, I got a call from my mother. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. "Hello," I said. "Kevin," she started, voice cold, clipped. "What did you do?" I didn't pretend. I charged the wedding to the card Vanessa gave me. She approved it. She didn't know. She knew. She just didn't think I would. There was silence. "You embarrassed her," she finally said. "Jason's family is upset. They said you ambushed them with a massive charge out of nowhere." I didn't. I paid for it up front. I switched the card later. The service was already rendered. If they're upset, it's because they believed the story she told them. She was under pressure. Weddings are stressful. I gave her $40,000, I said slowly, and she erased me. More silence. Then, "You didn't have to be cruel." I nearly laughed, but I didn't. I just said, I'm not coming to the dinner, but I hope it's memorable. Then I hung up. And the best part? I hadn't even revealed everything yet. There was still one final card to play. But that was for the wedding video. The restaurant didn't know what hit it. That night, Vanessa's intimate family dinner unfolded with all the elegance of a slow-motion train wreck. I wasn't there in person, but I didn't need to be. I had eyes everywhere. Michelle and Anthony seated at the far end of the table, phones on silent, watching everything unfold. They promised to update me with every detail. It started smoothly enough. Jason's parents arrived first, followed by my mom and dad, then a few extended relatives. Vanessa and Jason made their entrance with matching smug grins and gift bags for everyone. They handed out small printed photo books of the wedding. Personalized messages, gold embossed covers. Nothing for me, of course. And then the hostess led them to the private room. "Welcome," she said with a cheerful smile. "Party of 12, under Kevin Marsh." According to Michelle, Vanessa froze mid-step. Jason blinked, confused. My mom's jaw clenched. "Oh," Vanessa said, forcing a chuckle. "That must be a mistake. This is the post-wedding dinner." "Yes," the hostess said, still smiling. "It's been fully paid for by Kevin Marsh. He also asked that you watch a short slideshow before your meal. Would you like me to start it now?" Apparently Vanessa tried to say no, but Jason, thinking it was something sentimental or maybe even a reconciliation gesture, said sure. After all, it had my name on it. How bad could it be? Slide 1 appeared. The venue. The cost. $40,000, stamped in bold black. Jason leaned forward. Slide 2. Vanessa's email, her message reading, "Use this if needed," followed by her full card details. Jason's smile faded. Slide 3. The final payment receipt, charged to Vanessa's card. No refunds. No dispute possible. Jason turned to her slowly. Slide 4. "Thank you for your kind words at the reception. I heard every one of them." Kevin. Silence. No one moved. My father reportedly let out a stunned exhale. Jason's mother whispered, Did he pay for the whole wedding?" Then Jason stood up. He didn't yell, didn't scream, but his voice was loud enough for everyone in the room to hear. "Is this true?" he asked Vanessa. "Did Kevin pay for the wedding and you didn't tell me?" Vanessa fumbled. "He said he might help. I didn't know he actually." "Jason, I didn't. This isn't what it looks like. You told me your parents covered the venue," he said. "You said my parents were handling the bar. You said you organized everything." "I did," she cried. "I planned it. He helped. I didn't think he'd." "You humiliated him," Jason said flatly. "At our wedding." "It was a joke." "No," Jason said, backing away. "It was fraud. My mom tried to jump in then, shifting blame as she always did. He never told us he paid. If he wanted credit, he should have said something. We didn't know." Michelle spoke up from the end of the table. "Actually," she said, "he asked not to be credited. Out of kindness. Out of hope that maybe this would start to heal things." Vanessa turned toward her, eyes blazing. "You knew?" "So did I," Anthony said. "He showed us the receipts. The messages. Every whisper we heard at that wedding about how he was a failure. We heard it all. And so did he." My dad, ever the avoider, stood up and muttered something about needing air. My mom followed him, shooting Michelle a look like she'd betrayed them. Jason stayed. "You lied to me," he said again, this time softer. "You used your brother, mocked him, erased him, and stuck me with the fallout." Vanessa tried to grab his hand. "Jason, please, we're married. This is our family." He pulled away. "No," he said. "This is your mess. I'm not sure I want to be part of it anymore." Then he left. He left her. At the dinner table. In front of everyone. That moment was the beginning of the true unraveling. Over the next few days, word spread fast through our extended family. Not because I told anyone, but because the video started making rounds. That's right. I had the restaurant's presentation screen recorded from the HDMI output. I clipped it down, added captions, and sent it anonymously to a private family Facebook group that had conveniently never invited me. No commentary, just the video titled, "What Really Happened at Vanessa's Wedding." The fallout was immediate. Vanessa called me 12 times that week. Left voicemails sobbing, others furious. "How could you do this to me?" Turned into "Please take it down," which turned into "You're ruining my life." I never responded. Jason's parents reached out, formally requesting repayment of the wedding bar costs they'd been led to believe were theirs to cover. My parents? Radio silence. I assumed they were too embarrassed to reach out. Or maybe they were trying to regroup, to figure out how to spin the narrative. But the damage was already done. For the first time in my life, the truth wasn't just whispered in the background or brushed under a rug. It was visible, documented, shared. The story they had always told about me, about who I was, how little I'd achieved, how dependent and directionless I was, collapsed in a single night. And I didn't have to scream. I didn't have to fight. I just revealed. As for me, I moved. Not because I was running away, but because I was done shrinking myself to fit places that didn't see me. I bought a home in a quieter part of the country, mid-century modern, tucked between trees, with a view of a lake that still takes my breath away. Fully paid in cash. My digital course continued to grow. I launched a second one. Ryan and I formalized our business partnership, and Rachel, my friend from the studio, eventually became something more than a collaborator. She was the first person I told the entire story to, start to finish. "You really let it all burn," she said when I was done. "No," I said quietly. "I just finally stopped holding the hose for the people who lit the match. I didn't go to any more family events. Didn't send cards. Didn't show up at holidays. Michelle and Anthony came to visit me once. We sat on my porch, drinking coffee, watching the sun come up. You know," Anthony said, "the thing they hate the most isn't what you did." I looked over. What then? They hate that you don't need them. He was right. For the first time in my life, I felt light, whole, free from the need to prove myself to people who had never once bothered to understand me. And when the memories of that wedding night creep back in, when I remember the laughter behind my back, the toasts that never mentioned me, the family that never saw me, I think about that final dinner, about the slideshow, about Vanessa's face. And then I smile, because I didn't ruin her wedding. She did. I just finally turned on the lights. Sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't destruction, it's revelation.